Okay, so right now, ECOWAS is not able to deal with the coup situation in Mali. Burkina Faso's coup is mimicking what happened in Mali. Yeah. Both coups are against insurgents that are coming, as you would like us to believe, as remnants of the overthrow of Colonel Gaddafi in Libya. Okay, so right now, the government in Burkina Faso has been overthrown, deposed. Where are they?
Well, the president is in detention, and some of the ministers, we don't really know their whereabouts. And the constitution has been dissolved, the National Assembly dissolved, everything has just gone down the drain.
Same with Mali?
Same with Mali.
Okay, why has ECOWAS not been able to intervene in Mali? You were talking about Russia's involvement at the Security Council level to block the ECOWAS looking for a macro permission from the United Nations to intervene. Tell us about that.
ECOWAS have always approached coup situation with just one simple method that has never worked. You allow the coup to take place, you go with the threat of sanction.
I don't agree with you when you say you allow the coup to take place. How does ECOWAS allow the coup to take place? Well, the coup takes place. It's not ECOWAS that allows the coup to take place.
When ECOWAS wanted to act, we saw the wheel in Gambia.
They moved in.
Yeah. We saw signals.
The situation in Gambia was that an election had been won by Adom-Otchere. The Ajame was initially accepted, and then he changed his mind, resisting the handover to Adom-Otchere. That's not a coup. So ECOWAS went in to enforce the declaration of the Electoral Commissioner. So that's different.
But we also saw the wheel when ECOWAS wanted to go into Liberia and Sierra Leone.
Yeah, that's way back, yes. Yeah. In the Liberia situation, Civil War was occurring. Charles Taylor was running through West Africa and then now almost suddenly running to Monrovia and going to overthrow Sergeant Doe. Yeah. There are experts who believe that ECOWAS should have allowed the overthrow like a normal coup in everywhere in Africa, whether it was Siad Barre or Mobutu Sese Seko or J.J. Rawlings or Babangida Abacha or Captain Thomas Sankara. People believe that ECOWAS should have allowed the overrun of Samuel Doe because he had become unpopular anyway, and they believe that he had violated the Liberian constitution in many ways. So that can be said. But that's still not the same as saying a coup has occurred in Burkina Faso or in Mali or in Niger, and you say ECOWAS allows the coup to happen. That's the contention I'm bringing to you.
If we create a standby force to intervene, institutions come to intervene and we don't intervene, what is the sense of the standby force? It's of no use.
But we can intervene now. Now that the coup has occurred, we can intervene. Well, we can't intervene before the coup, is it? Unless the country invites ECOWAS to come in.
If the argument is on national sovereignty, non-interference, then ECOWAS in the first place had no business in Gambia. It was an internal issue. Why was ECOWAS there? Non-interference should apply.
Yeah, but the Gambians wanted the interference. They invited it, didn't they? They invited it. So if Burkina and Mali had not invited ECOWAS to come in, how did they go in?
But before the Malian coup, we saw a very huge protest led by Mahmoud Dicko against the government of Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. So if you argue that in Gambia there was a call by Gambians, in Mali there was a call by Malians to oust Boubacar Keïta, it's only a lack of political will. And the root of all this coup traces back to our decision when Alhassan Ouattara was going for a third term, which itself, people say constitutional coup. I don't believe in the word constitutional coup. An act can only be constitutional if it's in accordance with the law. Any act that contradicts the law itself is unconstitutional.
But Alhassan Ouattara had a constitutional amendment before he was able to go for the third term. And as you know, the Ouattara situation is also slightly different because of the demise of the guy who Ouattara had sort of anointed to run for the election on the ticket of his party.
In democracy, do you anoint a successor?
No, he didn't, but he was supporting him, which is okay. You can support.
So because of the death of your anointed successor, you have to come for a third term. Unconstitutional. But we allowed it to take place. And then Alpha Condé also took a coup to return it, backfired on his top. Having done that, ECOWAS is in haste to enforce sanity in Mali in order to deter this situation. But if you have two coups in Mali in the same year, it tells you that there's a deeper problem. And the biggest problem in Mali is that there's been a division between the North and the South historically. Under French colonial rule and post-colonial rule, governments, dominance of it come from the South, the Southerners of the dominated government. So to a typical Northern Malian among the Tuareg, there's no difference between the colonial regime and the current regime. So the first thing to do in Mali is not to go and impose deadlines and timetable, was to facilitate dialogue among all forces.
Well, we did. The Malians came to Peduase Lodge. They came to see Flight Lieutenant Rawlings. At that time, he was alive. The Coup people. They came here.
That was why
and they came to Peduase Lodge to see the ECOWAS chairman.
That is a Rawlings factor of the coup. I will still come to that. Rather than ensuring promoting dialogue, because the same person who ousted the Boubacar Keïta was the same person who brought him to power, Mahmoud Dicko. So there's no way you could resolve the issue in Mali without involving Mahmoud Dicko, without dealing with the separatists who led to the chaos in Mali in the first place. But you only came, called them to Accra or whatever meeting, gave them a deadline to follow. They obliged. Along the line, they overthrew the government. And then, having saw the pressure that was mounted on him in the first coup, Assimi Goïta calculated ECOWAS would bring sanction. And knowing that the French would toe the line, pressured the French to leave.
He asked the French to leave Mali.
Yeah, to leave Mali.
This is the French who have been there for over 50 years, half a century.
Yeah.
He asked them to leave.
Yeah. He raised this nationalistic argument. Perhaps it could be genuine. Perhaps it could be for a selfish interest. I can't tell. But the fact is that knowing that ECOWAS will come with the same demands they've went to, he took the French out of northern Mali and hired Russian mercenaries from the Wagner group. So immediately the French pulled out of Timbuktu. He deployed, what do you call it?
You call them Russian mercenaries.
Yeah.
So they are not part of the Russian regular army.
No.
But they are Russian troops. Trained by who? Vladimir Putin?
It's more like, what do you call it? Private military contractors, similar to what US use in Iraq, the Black Waters.
Mm-hmm.
But in the US context, they are purely meant to secure US, what do you call
interest.
it? US troops. No, when US haven't taken troops to the ground. But for Putin, they offer him plausible deniability. You know, after the collapse of Soviet Union.
Okay, so that Vladimir Putin can distance himself from the activity.
When it backfires against him,
then he distances himself.
He will be able to absorb the Russian state from culpability. But when it goes on well, he benefits. We saw it when he was going to capture Crimea. You know, the soldiers went without insignia, and they were being called the Little Green Men. It only took about a year later for him to confess that the soldiers were actually Russian special forces at that point.
Okay, so is that why Russia at the Security Council was interested in the application that ECOWAS brought to the Security Council?
Yeah.
Now tell us, what is the application that ECOWAS brought to the Security Council?
ECOWAS imposed sanctions on the Malian military junta. But the fact remains that ECOWAS does not have enough capacity to enforce its sanction. It can enforce some, such as the closing of the borders, the expelling of the diplomat, the suspension of Mali from ECOWAS activities. But when it comes to financial transactions and the rest, it needs global support. So there was this need to go to the Security Council for approval. So when they got there, Assimi Goïta, being very smart, outmaneuvered ECOWAS, brought the Wagner group. And anything that punishes Assimi Goïta affects Russia's interests. So Russia and China, in a joint move, vetoed the decision.
Oh, Russia and China?
Yeah.
Vetoed ECOWAS's decision to seek permission to impose sanctions on Mali?
Yeah.
That's catastrophic.
So the only pressure the West can apply now is when they impose unilateral sanction.
Unilateral, yes.
Without Security Council backing. So in that instant, countries like China and Russia can still disregard the sanction and transact business with Mali and ask you that we didn't impose the sanction. It wasn't backed by UN. It was just like the issue with British and...
So that the military junta in Mali now enjoy the tacit support of Russia and China at the Security Council. But that's a big deal. Yeah. That's a big deal. Is that why they're asking for 5 years?
He is asking for 5 years based on his own argument that he needs more consultation with the people.
To draw a new constitution.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you can't have...
We always need that kind of
You can't have a coup in 2012, have another one in 2013, and even within the 2015. And you have two coups within that year. It tells that there's something we are doing which is not right.
So you think Mali is not ready for Western-style democracy? They need to sort the basics out.
The problem is not Western-style democracy. The problem has to do with the historic division between the North and the South. The North feel dominated by the South and not part of governance.
The North feel dominated by the South. Is Bamako in the South?
Bamako is in the South, which is actually a reality.
The French troops based in the South?
No, the French troops were based in the North.
Okay.
As part of the contingent that ousted the Islamists and their Tuareg allies. So you see, until you are able to resolve, because we had about 4 different Tuareg rebellions. We had one in the 60s. We had another one in 1990 to 1995. We had one in 2007, 2009. So if the Tuareg continue to revolt against the Malian state, there's a fundamental problem that has not been addressed. So even if you impose democracy in Mali today, and that problem persists, we'll still go back to either a civil war situation or a
coup. So you think that Burkina is taking a cue from that? So is ECOWAS prepared to go back to the Security Council and ask for support for sanctions on Mali? Do you think ECOWAS will do that cautiously because they anticipate that Russia and China will come in again and say no?
I myself, I'm not a fan of going to the Security Council in the first place. Let's ask ourselves a simple question. Why do we have to go to so-called international bodies for every basic decision that we want to?
Well, but as you are saying, if you do not have the power to enforce the sanctions, then you need support from the other members of the Committee of Nations, the international community, to support you to be able to deliver those sanctions.
But mind you, the so-called International Committee of Nations play and interpret what is international selectively.
Yes, they do, but that's a procedure that you have to apply if you're a member of the Committee of Nations.
So the question is, why can't we deal with the situation head on? For example, we saw the signals coming in Burkina Faso where the government came to announce.
To deal with the situation head on, you may be violating the territorial integrity of those countries if the government, the legitimate government of the country, has not invited you in. Okay. So that if there's a demonstration in Accra, in the 1990s, there was a Kumi-Perko demonstration, it was a massive demonstration and things were turned upside down. It's not a basis for ECOWAS to now send troops to the Ghana-Togo border and the Dahomey border. You can't do that.
I don't know much about the Kumi-Perko demonstration, but I don't think it was on a fundamental constitutional issue. It could be more on economic and...
It was economic for sure, yes. Okay, but the point you're making is that where there's agitation of a constitutional
fundamental
issue, like a third-term desire of the leader...
What is the essence of ECOWAS if it can't intervene on the interests of the people?
Yeah, but here's Burkina Faso, where insurgents have come into the country and they are threatening the security of civilians. Burkina Faso must be able to deploy their army to do that. If they need support from Nigeria, they can call for it. If they need support from ECOWAS, from Ghana, they can call for it. If they need the Ghanaian Air Force to go in there and do surveillance and bombard the insurgents, they can do that. If they haven't done that, Ghana president cannot say that I'm flying the Air Force into Burkina Faso. He can't say that.
Gambia has neutralized that argument because when the Gambian issue happened, before ECOWAS made a move, we actually saw Senegal taking the initiative. And Senegal took it for a specific reason. The Casamance region.
Senegal's relationship with Gambia is the geopolitical relationship is very different because Gambia is embedded inside Senegal.
Not just that.
Yeah.
There's a rebellion in a certain portion of Senegal, Casamance, which is believed by the Senegalese to be backed by Yahya Jammeh.
At that time, yeah.
So even ECOWAS going into Senegal, into Gambia was not as altruistic as they wanted us to say it. It's selfish.
To protect the Senegalese interest.
Senegal took the initiative to protect its interests. Nigeria endorsed it to protect its prestige. You know, when the Ivory Coast situation erupted, Nigeria wanted to deploy troops across ECOWAS because it wanted to shield Gbagbo from going to Hague, not absorb him from culpability. But then Nigeria lacked enough assets to move with troops by sea or by air. So it requested permission across West Africa. And that was when Uncle Atta made his famous speech of due fiasem as a foreign policy decision.
Yeah.
And then South Africa deployed a naval vessel in West African waters, which Nigeria considered to be its own backyard. You know, this issue of rivalry between. So, henceforth, Nigeria went on weapon arms shopping, acquired 2 OPVs, offshore patrol vessels from China, NNS Sentinel, NNS Unity. So, in Gambia, Nigeria has an opportunity of redeeming its image. So it wasn't as if we had the interests of the Gambians at heart. It was ECOWAS trying to protect its image. It is in an attempt to protect that image that we've also imposed sanctions on Mali without understanding the situation. We have leaders who don't even understand the security situation in the country. A typical example is Nigeria. We've been hearing bandits kidnapping students here and there. It took a court decision to declare the bandits as terrorists, not a government decision. So if you have leaders who don't even understand their domestic affairs, how can they deal with regional affairs collectively? I think with the coup in Burkina Faso, it would be fair to say that ECOWAS leaders should just bow their head in shame.
And do what? Because we have to solve the problem.
What can they do now? They couldn't even deal with Mali. They couldn't deal with Guinea. So what can they do now?
So are we running at the risk of the Arab Spring now coming into West Africa to create political and security difficulties?
I think Arab Spring was more of a democratic civil movement.
Yeah, I get it, but the remnants of the Gaddafi overthrow is what you're saying have now come to the west, the Sahel region, which then 2 kilometers down to the south then brings them into West Africa, at least the northern parts of West Africa. There's Ghana, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, Dahomey, that's Benin, Liberia, who are quite stable. Yeah. Should these countries be concerned that the instability could sort of ring around their territories as well?
This country also highlight this. You know, there's this argument of the coup being a francophone coup. The stability of these 2 countries, Togo and Benin, and Ivory Coast, and some of the other francophone countries, clearly tells that it is not a francophone coup. but it is peculiar within the domain of the Islamic.
It's a francophone Islamic Sahel.
Islamic Sahel, but not to generalize that a francophone coup would be too much of a generalization.
Yeah.
But then it tells you that one, the francophone countries perhaps have poorly trained armies. And it's obvious, some of the when you see the appearance of this, they look like more of police in military fatigues. That's how I
Police will not be happy today. I have to end it here, Bello. We'll come back to you on Thursday for you to give us the update on that. But yeah, that's Alhassan Bello, our international relations correspondent, bringing us the latest from the Mali situation.